I'd like to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for the wonderful town of Sevastopol at 7 p.m. on January 16th. If you'd join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's start with a roll call to see if we have a quorum. Amy?
Supervisor Mark Hain.
Here.
Supervisor Linda Waite. Here. Chairman Dan Moffel.
Here.
Supervisor Derek Daniel.
Here.
Supervisor Jeannie Vogel.
Here.
All right, looks like we're good to go. Meet and greet. If you don't mind introducing yourself, we'd appreciate it. We'd let you start first.
Attorney Bjorn Johnson, I represent the property owners at 4248 Glen Drive.
Thank you.
Brad Reimer with Mountain Associates. I represent the Door County Child Development Center on Gordon Road.
Okay.
Jean Nelson, 4339 Glen Drive.
Steve Murray, 4124 Glidden Drive.
Hugh Settle, 3986 Glen Drive, Supervisor, District 14.
Jeff and Steve Wood, 5799 Gordon Road.
Carrie Nellis, 4216, Scott Highway 57.
Greg Nellis, 4216, Sevastopol.
You know, I usually start my meetings based on when you're here. You guys are like a minute late, so it's okay. Welcome all. Thank you for
Two more.
coming. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to miss the boys.
Derek Demise, Country Road.
Larry Chapman, Glidden Drive.
All right, good. All accounted for. All right, public participation. Anyone here wishing to speak on anything not on the agenda? Okay. Then let's see. I assume our agenda was properly noticed,
The
Amy?
agenda was properly noticed.
And then we would need a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt agenda.
Motion by Jeannie, second by
Second.
Derek. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, you have in front of you the Board of Supervisors meeting from December 19th. You should all have had an opportunity to look at that. Unless you have some comments, a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll move to approve the minutes of December 19th, 2022 and place on file.
Motion by Linda, second by
Second?
Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Pending business. The first thing on our agenda this evening is a discussion regarding the short-term rental agreement that has been reached with the owners of the property on Glidden Drive. I don't really hope to go into too much detail as this agreement is 5 or 6 pages. I just do not read it all. But let me just kind of summarize, if I can. The issues were a number of complaints that came back through the town and also through Granicus regarding overpopulation of, or over-occupancy of the dwelling on a number of different occasions, which resulted in these numerous complaints, as well as many other numerous issues, some which were absolutely covered by ordinance, some maybe gray area, I think maybe, at any rate, we'll leave it at that. The occupancy was the biggest issue. The owners have since upgraded their septic system to remedy the situation. There was a lot of discussion with respect to the occupancy of the dwelling and the fact that at numerous times it was over-occupied. There were more vehicles there. And clearly there was, unfortunately, an abuse of the ordinance in terms of what was happening. We worked with our town attorney as well as Bjorn representing the owners to deal with basically what we agreed to do is to fine them a substantial amount of money as well as attorney fees. And the two attorneys worked out a settlement agreement which we will vote on this evening. The board has a copy of that. But we believe will address the concerns that the public has as well as those that we have at the town. And as these things seem to have their own legs and word gets out about what happens in these situations, it becomes more public. I think it'll probably set the stage for anyone else that might be thinking of not complying with our ordinance, that we're going to take a very difficult and tough stance on these types of issues in the future. We're glad that they were able to agree to a settlement. I don't think either one of us wanted to take this to court. Our objective was to resolve the problem, which I believe the agreement has done. They were transparent and proactive in remedying it from our perspective. They have agreed to the conditions of the fine. And basically that, I would say, summarizes where we're at. The board has this agreement. They've had an opportunity to read it. So if there's questions or concerns from you, this would be the opportunity to discuss them. And then if there's any comments from the public or their attorney, if they would like, we will give them an opportunity to speak as well. If you'd like to start,
Sure.
that'd be fine.
Yeah. I have signed copies of my client's signature page for everyone. And then also attached to that is a quit claim deed that I signed and notarized for them yesterday, which is on its way to the Register of Deeds, which is transferring ownership of the property to their LLC. So that's just for the records.
Thanks, and for the benefit of the public, there were issues with multiple ownership and the LLCs, et cetera, and some confusion as to who, what, where, and how, so they've cleaned that matter up as well, so we appreciate that, thank you. Comments from the board?
Or just, in light of the complaints and the violations, I also am glad that legal counsel was able to come up with this settlement agreement. I think it's reasonable, and I think it's justifiable as well, so.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Anyone from the public wishing to speak regarding this? Jean?
Jean Elston, Glidden Drive. I don't know the settlement, so I can't say if I'm satisfied with it. And I would hope that I could, if you approve the settlement, I can get a copy of it.
Yes.
The main concern that I hear from my neighbors is that when there is a problem with the short-term rental, the only remedy at the moment is calling Granicus. The party still goes on, and in this case, I sent the complaint to Granicus because there was a wedding scheduled at the property, and there were bridesmaids there and caterers. And they were using another shuttle service to shuttle people in, but yet there were cars parked on both sides of the driveway, on the street in front of the property. And if an emergency vehicle needed to get through, it would have been difficult. So the problem I hear from the neighbors is, okay, I call Granicus and they say, oh, we're sorry, is it still going on? At the time, we have no remedy. If you call the sheriff says, they're having a party. There's nothing I can do about it. So the neighbors feel frustrated, and I think that's just my point to tell you is that we don't know what to do after we call Granicus. It's all fine, but like I said, the party goes on.
Go ahead.
You should have, all of the neighbors within 200 feet of the property should have been provided with notice, with either the owner's name and address and phone number and email, or their respective agents' name, address, phone number, email. And if there is a complaint, that person is supposed to be available, I believe, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So if you want to pass that along, Jean, to the neighbors, if they did not receive an informational sheet with all of the requirements per our ordinance, they need to, they could probably call Amy at the office, and you would send out something to the owner saying, you need to comply. So if that helps a little bit, Jean?
It actually does not, because this person did have one of my neighbors will not call Granicus, okay? They did contact me, and they had an issue where sometime in September, there was a RV parked in the parking lot with the camper thing out, and people were camped there along with using the short-term rental. He called the agent, whose name he had, and we know by now that the agent did not live within
75 miles.
75 miles. The agent said, "Oh, they'll be gone in 2 days, don't worry." So where do you go from there? Why would the neighbor go one step further when he's done all he can do? And that's what we find frustrating, because if there's another wedding at this property, what do? We call Granicus, they call the agent, "Oh, we're sorry." That's
Well,
what we've heard.
At least it's documented, because when it comes time to renew these STR permits, and there are complaints and violations on file, unless the neighbors or whoever, unless you register that complaint, we have nothing to rely on and to, for feedback for us and to document, because obviously if there are repeated violations and complaints, we're going to take a look at that license. But it has to be documented. We have to know that there's complaints out there. So even though you didn't get satisfaction, please urge your neighbors to document it with Granicus. You can either call them or email them, or even if you want to copy Amy on that at the office, so that we have a record, and, repeat offenders they're going to get a response, so.
I mean, unfortunately, let me just add, unfortunately, we all know we do not have a constable, sheriff, whatever at our disposal, which is the logical next step that you take in this situation. But you hope that through word of mouth of the actions that we've taken tonight, as well as the comments that Linda made relative to the fact that we do not have to renew their license, or we have the ability to revoke or suspend, which was a topic of discussion with the individual in question, but that these things would decrease significantly. And there is going to be an effort for us to do a little fine tuning of our ordinance. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but to deal with some of the issues that we as well share with the community. So, Steve?
To Linda's point, which is well taken, part of the concern is some of these neighbors like to live in harmony with those around them, and I get it, we're here for the long term, we want to get along, so some people are willing to raise their hand and reach out to Granicus, and some aren't. And I read a whole series of emails about one of the neighbors trying to comply with what Linda said, and was aware of the property manager who to contact, and it was essentially fell on deaf ears. It was just given whitewash. They'll be gone eventually. They'll be gone on Monday. They'll be gone on Sunday. They'll be gone on Tuesday. And it's just like let their whatever the rental was run out. And so really that's a nice gesture to say we'll make everybody aware of who the owners are and who the property managers are. But at least in this case, there's no teeth in it for them to really do what you would hope they would do is intervene. And say, you're over your limit. Your house is rated for 4 people. You've got 14. If you were a hotel on the street or a motel, the police would come and take you out. You'd be evicted that night. And in this case, you're not. It just goes on.
Okay.
And so that level of intervention, you call the fire department. Because now this is an assembly. Are your doors swinging in or are they swinging out? Are your doors lighted with exit signs?
I hear you,
They're
but
getting 50 to 100 people inside a home.
at this time, we don't have a solution.
Yeah,
I appreciate the frustration. I understand the issue. As a town chairman and a neighbor, I would hate to tell you how many complaints I get about fireworks at the wrong time of the year and for all the wrong reasons. And in that case, I could call the sheriff, but with the other 35 calls that are out there, when he shows up, the fireworks are gone and it's August. So it's one of the things that unfortunately we end up having to deal with. If we have an avenue in the future to fix it, we will.
Can I make another comment to that too, Steve and Jean? We're still sort of on the learning curve. So as we move along here, we're going to, instances are going to come up that we need to address. I and the Plan Commission, we're making a list. Making a list, checking it twice, because I can foresee amending our current ordinance to address camping, parties. And actually, if they're listed with Airbnb or VRBO, they are not supposed to be having events at all. we'll call them assemblies. Zoning would call them assemblies. So like I said, we're making a list, and that's a good point, that agent must respond, you know. So yes, we have in our ordinance that you need to have an agent, but I think we would need to put some teeth in there and say, must respond, you know. So-
One final concern is at this place, what about campfires? Are campfires in your ordinance?
As long as they got a marshmallow somewhere in the house.
Okay, well, we know that this one instance
Yeah.
that someone was being sent down to start a bonfire down at the property, a campfire.
Yeah.
So, as neighbors, you know, we're invested in it, our homes are here. We have some concerns that we would like beefed up in the new ordinance.
And campfires, by the way, a legitimate concern, obviously, where we all live, but, you know, that's kind of thing where you pick up the phone and call the fire department, and they will respond. So,
Okay.
I mean, that is not an issue, and we've talked to the fire chief, they're very supportive. So if there's that kind of issue, just pick up the phone and call, tell them what's up, they'll send a truck out. If it shouldn't be there, they'll put it out. So
Good to know.
we shouldn't lose any sleep over that.
And another, the settlement agreement is for complaints and concerns and violations through December 31st of 2022. So it's just for last year, so we're starting a new year now.
Good to know.
You?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Hugh Zettel, 3986 Glidden Drive, also District 14 Supervisors. Steve and Jean are my constituents. I also serve on the Resource Planning Commission, of which ordinances are there. Since we're under comprehensive zoning, I've already notified them, because this has been a discussion, both the septic issue, which was talked about with the sanitarian during the discussion, as well as concern about assembly. And really, the feedback at that meeting was there really was a violation of an existing county ordinance. So I would urge the town to make sure that town council provides correspondence to corporate counsel, Sean Donahue at the county, to make him aware of that, and also copy Mariah Good, who's the land use manager, so that we can address those. There are a number of policy matters, relative, whether it's parking, whether it's POUTS compliance, whether it's the clarification of assembly. No one anticipated in the comprehensive ordinance about assembly, when a lot of that ordinance was done, is when we had the challenge with wedding barns, as folks recall, and how that gets managed properly. No one anticipated that a short-term rental would be used as a venue for hosting a 50-plus person wedding. And so it's really abuse of property, it's abuse of zoning, and you have to make sure, please, to notify them of what was identified in this matter, so that we can make sure that we work with the county to adjust the ordinances as possible, and again, make it easier for us as a town to enforce, and make sure we're meeting the expectation of our residents. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that last and final FYI here is that the owners of this dwelling are going to become permanent residents on Glidden Drive. They have a home under construction currently.
Forever.
So if you can't find the agent within 75 miles, and I can give you the address, you could go say hello, but that's not the object. But we'll try and work that from our end. So any other comments from the board on the settlement? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll move to accept and approve the settlement agreement as presented to us this evening.
We have a motion by Linda, second by Jeannie, to approve the settlement agreement between us and the short-term rental owners, and I believe everything is in order on this. We have the signatures. They are going to supply us with updated parking, I believe, part of the
Yeah, it should have
document.
been attached to his exhibit.
Okay. I have drafts and redrafts, but if not, you'll give us one. Let's put it
Okay,
that way.
yeah, I can just.
All right, that's fine. So we have a motion from Linda, second by Jeannie, to approve the settlement agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Shower Road discussion. This is something that we've talked about at a couple different meetings, and the most recent meeting that we had, the proposal, well, let me back up. The original proposal we had was to try and widen the road going into Cape Point County Park. And that was the way that we were pursuing our effort with the DNR to try and get the necessary approvals to do that, and for them to allow us to expand our right-of-way to a standard road right-of-way. During a joint meeting of the people from the county, Thad Ash, Ken Pavich, the DNR representatives, I think there was representatives from both of our supervisors from the county, etc. In that conversation, it was a proposal that we look at taking and creating a new road off of the existing road, about halfway in, and create a straight line to the parking lot at Cape Point Park, taking the remainder of the road that was there and deeding it back to the Wisconsin DNR, and they would in turn take and create a walking trail along the shoreline rather than what our people are taking today. At any rate, the idea had a lot of enthusiasm, especially from the DNR, which was actually a pleasant experience. But it didn't go anywhere for a long period of time. And so we kind of kept at it. And as recently as last week, we were finally given an update in terms of what's up, in terms of what are the requirements from the state, what things we have to do with the DNR, for example, getting an update to their master plan to make changes, et cetera, as well as a number of determinations that have to be made on potential burial grounds and protected species, so on and so forth. So the gist of it is that we're going to have a follow-up meeting on the 26th of January, and I won't be able to attend, but Linda's going to fill in for me, to try and assign duties and break this out so that we can get more people involved and get some momentum on this project and get it going. And obviously, there's a number of reasons we want to do it. Safety is one thing, because that is an issue with people going all over the sides of the road, having people on bicycles, nearly get clipped and so on and so forth. The other aspect of it that it comes into play, and another reason for us to try and step up the effort to get the DNR, the state, to move ahead, is as a result of the Community Investment Fund. We talked about that a little bit before, but now the fund and the details have really started to come forward, and people are getting a better understanding of just how many dollars are in this. And there's over $1 million available this year in this Community Investment Fund, which is going to be managed by the Door County Foundation. And there will be 4 different opportunities for us or for others in the county to apply for grant funding. And according to everything that I've read, and I think, Linda, you attended a Zoom or in-person presentation.
In person with Brett Bicoy, yes.
This project really seems to hit the nail on the head. And so we're hopeful that we can garner some dollars out of it. And we want the state to get rolling before somebody else gets to the pile of cash, so to speak. So I just want to give you an update on where that is. I can't foresee us actually accomplishing anything in terms of construction this year, but it would be great if we could get to the point where we could get a commitment, resolve it, and put it on the schedule for 2024. Linda, you want to talk a little bit about your meeting on the Community Investment Fund? If not, it's up to you.
Yes, just for general information, the main point that Brett Bicoy, who is the director of the Door Community Foundation, made was, in order to qualify for these funds, it has to significantly be used by transient tourists, that means paid tourists, and likely to generate a paid overnight stay. And in my mind, Cave Point Park is the most visited place in all of Door County. I mean, if you're coming to Door County and you miss Cave Point, you need to come back again. So that's what he stressed. The destination Door County, so these are, I'll call them excess funds from destination Door County. In their 2023 budget, they allocated $1 million, and I believe there's $865,000 in there from the previous year. So they plan to make 4 distributions a year, quarterly. They were kind of vague on the amount. So the amount could be anywhere from, as little as $10,000 to, someone asked the question if you could possibly get the entire pot, and he did not say no to that, but he didn't say yes either. So that's the main gist of it. They'll be easy to work with. I did print out the application and the information, but they suggested that someone sit down with the community foundation people, present the plan. They'll kind of guide you through the application. Okay, include this and, stress these points or whatever. So the simplest grant is tangible municipal development, such as sand, sand for beaches or trails or equipment, something, again, that you can touch and hold, and obviously a road is something that is very tangible. So I think we would be a good candidate for that. So.
Well, our project would cross, check the box for county involvement, the town of Sevastopol, and it would impact the town of Jacksonport as well as tourism in general. So I agree with you. I think if we can get the DNR rolling, I think we have an opportunity to maybe fund some of this. So.
Right. And the partnership aspect too, like you said, all of those entities, plus it is a tourist attraction. So that's where that stands right now.
Thank you, Linda. So let's, as long as Linda's on a roll here, let's keep her going. We'll talk about, one of the main reasons we're here tonight is for a discussion on the conditional use permit for the Door County Community Child Development Center, which, as most of you all know, is on Gordon Road, right near Culver's. We have a couple people here this evening that would like to talk to that, in addition to Linda. Just as an FYI, 60 days ago, this came before this board for recommendation on a rezone for that property. And we did support the rezone, which was subsequently approved by the county last month, was it? Hugh, do you recall? 2 months ago. Okay, time flies when you're having fun. So Linda, you want to lead the discussion on that?
Well, Hugh was kind enough to chair our meeting for me on last Tuesday,
right.
January 10th, but I'll recap as much as I can. Hugh, if I miss something, just let me know. So again, we had Mr. Reimer there on behalf of the Child Care Center. I believe Alexis Fuller, the Fullers were here, and there was another gal, I don't remember her name, Cole Myra from Keller Buildings. I believe he's on the phone with us. Thank you, Cole. Here representing the building aspect of it. So the Plan Commission, just like the Town Board, received the entire packet from Door County Land Use on their conditional use permit. As our chairman mentioned, yes, we had already approved and it has been granted their commercial zoning for this piece of property. I believe it was 16 acres, 6 acres. Anyway, wherever the building and the parking lot is going to be. So, and there would be 2 entrances. I believe you see that on the drawings. We have a very nice photograph or proposal of what the building would look like. We all agreed at the Plan Commission. We agreed. Thank you, Attorney Johnson.
Thank you.
We all agreed it was very pleasing looking, would fit in. It was the unanimous recommendation of our Plan Commission to support the request for the conditional use permit. The reasons for our decision was that there's definitely a need for additional child care services in our area, that the use of the parcel now would be consistent with the current zoning commercial, that the building is aesthetically pleasing and appropriate for that area. There were is the proposal consistent with the town's comprehensive plan? Yes, it is close to or adjacent to existing commercial uses in that area. And we also like the idea that they were preserving trails through the the undeveloped portion of the countryside parcel. Some of the current concerns were, one of the neighbors across the street had raised a concern. They did not have an objection to the project, but they did have a concern as to lighting, and hopefully this would be downward lighting, because they like the dark skies and there wouldn't be light trespass. And that is usually addressed at the county level from the county zoning aspect. So I don't think we would need to worry about that. We also talked about possibly timers to turn them off at night so there wasn't constant light. And then the Woods, Jeff and Steve Woods, they're here tonight if they want to add additional comments. So the Wood Orchard is an adjacent property. On the child care development property are a couple dozen dead apple trees. Was it more than 40? I think you said 40. More than 40. That it would be nice if those could be removed, because old apple trees attract pests and insects, which means that an operating orchard may have to use more pesticide on their side to avoid those insects and pests. Maybe Steve or Jeff could explain that a little bit better. And it seemed that the owners were conducive to working with them on getting those trees removed. So other than that, we fully supported their request. I don't know if you had anything to add to that?
Jeff Wood, 5799 Gordon Road. I think your summary was very well of our position there, so.
All right, thank you.
If you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer.
Were those your trees?
No, the ones on that property were not in our, no. Ours are right next to them.
I don't know if you had anything to add. I think it's.
No. Hugh, do you have anything to add?
No, we're good.
He's good to go.
The driveways, I did ask the question if there was going to be one driveway designated for ingress and the other one designated for egress, but both driveways are going both ways, so. I think that's about it.
All right. Did you want to give either the gentlemen, one on the telephone or here in person?
Okay, we have Mr. Reimer here. I don't know if you wanted to add anything?
You did an excellent job summarizing the project. I think you guys are all aware of what's going on there. This is just one of the final pieces to the puzzle when it comes to zoning and allowing the use of a child care center.
And I think the packet was pretty transparent too. 156 open.
146 for
146,
occupancy,
yeah.
approximately 30 staff.
So,
Okay. I
I
mean,
don't know if Cole had
I don't know if anyone has any questions here from the board?
Do we want to ask Cole if he wants?
Cole, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you got it all. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
I'd like to say,
Can you guys hear me?
yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to say I could drag this out for another half hour, but it would be kind of redundant of us to deny supporting a conditional use after we supported the rezone, unless they made us a better offer, but they haven't.
Would you like a
So,
motion?
I would say that a motion to approve and send a letter to the RPC would be appropriate.
I will move that the town board forward a positive recommendation of support for the Door County Community Child Development Center on Gordon Road to establish the child care center in the northeast portion of that parcel,
Right, we have a motion by
as presented.
Linda, second by
Second?
Jeannie. Any further discussion? Anybody have any children? No, okay.
I wish.
All right. All those in support of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. Thank you, good luck. Appreciate you making the trip up here
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Linda, you're on a roll this evening.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a good thing I can talk tonight. I wasn't doing much talking on Tuesday.
The next item on our agenda is the town, this came up 2 months ago.
Couple, yeah, September, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Where we got wind of a request from the town of Liberty Grove to amend the Door County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow
Bless you.
for auto repair trade contractor establishments with a conditional use permit in Heartland 10 zoning districts in Door County, which, as it turns out, Linda will tell us more, but I think 95% of them are all in Gibraltar versus here. The initial pass on this was, we didn't offer an opinion. And since that time, there's been a lot of rethinking of it. And so it's come back to us for consideration, as well as other communities in Door County. Linda, would you like to follow on?
Right, as the chairman mentioned, the Plan Commission briefly discussed this a couple months ago, but we didn't take any action. So in light of the resource planning, back to the beginning, Town of Liberty Grove requested that the county comprehensive zoning ordinance text be amended so that you could have an auto repair, which also includes marine repair, businesses in Heartland 10. Heartland 10 is a 10-acre minimum. The town of Liberty Grove has the majority, like I think 3,000 acres or something like that. We have none in Sevastopol, but that's not to say that someone couldn't come along and, petition to rezone their parcel to Heartland 10. So anyway, the Plan Commission discussed it. You have our memo in front of you. I won't read the whole thing, but again, just to go back, that currently in Heartland 10, you can have an auto repair or a marine repair or a home business as long as your residence is there and you live there. So at the Plan Commission level, we kind of thought that, okay, if you live there, you take pride in your residence and appearance, and there wouldn't be an accumulation of vehicles. Whereas having a standalone auto repair or marine repair out in a rural area, even though there is a conditional use permit requirement, enforcing that conditional use permit is not always a workable situation. So it went to the RPC. We did not provide any input. It went to the Resource Planning Commission. They supported the zoning text amendment with a vote of 4-1. And it went to County Board, and there was much discussion at County Board at the December meeting. Again, you have it in the memo. And that resulted in RPC members changing their mind and the County Board not making any decision at all and tabling the matter. So it is our Plan Commission's consensus that we provide some input either to the RPC or directly to the County Board, such as this memo, that basically some of the HL10 parcels, because they're grandfathered in, they're not all 10-acre parcels. So you could have an auto business that's maybe only 5 acres away. And then again, we mentioned the enforcement of conditional use permit conditions. Does our county land use department have the personnel capable of doing that enforcement with more businesses? When it comes to outside storage and lighting and all that, additional burdens on the county. Home business to me infers that the owner-operator lives there, and this would bypass that. We also talked about a performance along the lines of an occupancy bond, that if you don't follow through with your conditional use permit requirements, you're going to get a fine or at least notice that you need to comply. Perhaps the land use needs to tighten up some of their conditional use permit language when it comes to screening and lighting, things like that. And we disagreed with Liberty Grove's logic that having a home business on Heartland 10 would be easy to do because there are not a lot of commercial parcels available in Liberty Grove. And we kind of threw that by the wayside. That was not a legitimate reason. So anyway, that's where it stands. So I guess we're looking for the town board support to forward this memo, either to the RPC or directly to the county, to the RPC.
I think the Plan Commission did a great job in the points they made. I would totally support that.
Yeah, it was a really good discussion we had, so.
Any comments from anyone else on the board? I would entertain a motion that we approve and support this, sending it to the Door County Board of Supervisors, a copy to the RPC as well. And so I think the issues that are raised here are very legitimate. I'd like to say that I wish we'd have caught these the first go around. But sometimes you kind of go with the flow. When somebody asks for something, you think there's good logic behind it. But I think probably one of the single biggest reasons that we should support this was a bullet that was mentioned in there, which is the Resource Planning, not so much the Resource Planning Commission, but Land Use Services has a difficult time following through on conditional uses. And, you know, we could end up with half a dozen of these, and as we know, we've experienced personally, some have taken 10 years to be implemented correctly. So I would recommend that someone issue a motion and we send this off on its merry way. So, hearing a motion from,
Oh, Derek, you were at the meeting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
right. Thanks, Derek. A motion by Derek.
I'll second the motion. Just say
Second by Linda. I guess it must be a slow night. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good, carried. I assume our clerk treasurer will put her clerk hat on and take care of this?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Amy.
All right, great. All right. Next item, a little bit on our financial reports. You have before you your account balances, the budget versus actual, the final year-end statement, as well as the current. And you also have the transactions by date. And what we would like to do is hear if the treasurer, with her voice, does she want to add anything?
Sure. We have paid out the January settlements to the county, Sevastopol School, Sturgeon Bay School, NWTC, and the Sevastopol Sanitary District. Our audit will take place on January 30th, 2023, and there will be a primary election on Tuesday, February 21st, for the state Supreme Court. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m.
Well, you switched hats there.
I have to every once in a while.
All right. All right. Motion to approve the financial reports would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the December financial reports, December 2022 financial reports.
Motion by Jeannie, second by?
Second.
Second by Mark, all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, next item would be the approvals of vouchers, claims,
you.
and bills
Steve, Jeff.
from December 20th through January 19th. I think everybody had a chance to sign them.
They did.
Yes.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers, bills, and claims December 20th, 2022 through January 19th, 2022.
All right.
Three.
23. You're right, that is,
Someone
it
wrote
should
wrong.
say.
It was me. That
I
was
was
me.
reading it.
Typo.
Yep, good catch, Mark. All right, motion by Mark, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Jeannie to approve vouchers, claims, and bills December 20th, 2022 through January 19th, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, oral committee commission reports. I'd like to start doing this quarterly. It's a kind of just give people a recap rather than us trying to do that just at the annual meeting in April. So with that, Linda, you haven't had a chance to speak today.
Okay, I was going to make one comment on the financials. Are we really earning 4.02%
We are.
at the local government pool?
Yes, they've been slowly climbing.
That's impressive.
Right. It's about time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only
Plan-
taken 2 years.
Plan Commission, we've had a lot of activity all of 2022, but I guess I'm supposed to stick to just the last quarter. So I believe we had a zoning change, we had a text amendment, we had this Heartland issue, we had 1 or 2 conditional use permits. Again, I'll just thank all of our Plan Commission members who donate a considerable amount of time to attend these meetings. We really appreciate it. And also, Door County Land Use Services is back offering educational programs for Plan Commission members, board members to public education sessions. So we had one in November, and we have our next one in January 30th. So that's,
Quick question on your ordinance update. Do you have a rough timeline, and would you try and get that done before license renewals?
oh, the STR ordinance?
Yes, I'm sorry, could have given the topic.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, like I said, we've been collecting points that we want to consider, so.
I mean, I'm
Before
thinking
renewal.
Before
Good
renewal
point.
would be a good time to do
Okay.
it, so we don't have to introduce something
Mhm.
midterm.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, great, thanks, Linda. Mark, rec, dam, the whole stuff.
Well, unlike Linda, we don't have a lot going on this time of year just because nothing going over there. But we do have lots going on behind the scenes. Ryan Brungraber is I'd say our dam master now. He's been running it for close to a year. He goes down there, tries to go down there once a week, and we're having some issues with water getting through and all kinds of other things, and we've been having some pretty good discussions. We're gonna have to get down there and do some work. Probably gonna have to get the DNR involved, unfortunately, but it is neither here nor there. I've talked with the athletic director over at Sevastopol. We've got some good talks going there. We're gonna, at our next meeting, she's gonna come and give us her wish list as she does every year. Trying to think. The big thing we would really like to do this year, if we can, and it's gonna be from donations, is replace the scoreboards. They're very outdated. So if anybody's got some extra money laying around or would like to sponsor a scoreboard, come talk to us. Just general electrical needs and small things like that, so, not a whole lot going on in the wintertime around here, but it's a behind-the-scenes thing that people don't really see us doing.
Couple of things, perhaps you can update us. Dugout status on the one that didn't get completely knocked over, and do we have any sense for where we're gonna go with the lights?
I talked to two people about the lights, and basically it's, once it warms up a little bit, we'll meet out there. Same thing with the dugout. I have two guys that are gonna go look at the dugouts. They wanna wait till it gets warm, or the dugout, until it warms up a little bit. We have a really good plan for that dugout. We're gonna reface the first base baseball dugout, so all the dugouts will pretty much look the same. That one's never had any problems with it, like the third base dugout, well, obviously that one fell over. So that one, we had some major problems. We always have problems with cracking the concrete and the block and stuff, but the first base one's always been pretty solid. So we're gonna reface it and just clean it up and make it structurally sounder. So we're gonna, hopefully the next month here, and get the guys out there and look at it. They're kinda waiting for the warmer weather.
So do you think that this will get accomplished before the season starts?
It'll probably be like last year, probably be during the season.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. EMRs, we have a new EMR chief over here. Derek?
Yeah, EMR submitted their Q4 payroll. Of the 20 members, 13 of them responded to calls for that quarter. The EMR group is actively working on creating a list of inventory items and who has what. So they're working hard on that. And the rest of the winter into spring, they're going to be working on either bylaws or changing it to standard operating procedures.
Oh, well, that'd be great. That'd be cool. Is there a lot of training going on at the present time? Or is that back on the?
Monthly.
Monthly, they're on a regular
They're back
schedule
on
now?
monthly. Yep.
Oh, that's good news. And how about head count?
20, 21, 22. The EMR that responds to the majority of our calls is actually a Egg Harbor resident.
Is he thinking of moving?
I don't think he has to if he's responding that much. So
Well,
thank you to him.
That's encouraging. Who is that individual?
Dale Wiegand.
Oh, Dale Wiegand.
I guess.
Oh, okay, he's right on town line.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's great. Thanks, Dale, if you hear this. Okay, great. Jeannie, you're last but not least on the Communication and Technology Committee.
Well, thanks, Chairman. I don't have a lot to say other than we have as most people should now be aware, that there is going to be a public hearing for broadband next Monday, January 23rd at 6 p.m. I encourage all the residents in the community to attend. You'll have a lot of information provided to you, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions, and really look forward to seeing as many people as possible at the upcoming meeting.
I would add to that, because we will be talking about all the ins and outs
Yeah.
of what we're going to do with broadband, at least where we think we're going. And there will be a very substantial commitment on part of the town in the multi-million-dollar category. So if you have interest, you have questions, the time is to come now and get them answered to your satisfaction, or let us work if we can't get the answer corrected. We do not want to have a situation where there's a lot of after the fact, oh, I didn't know or I didn't understand. So you got the time. It will also be broadcast live, correct, Laddie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it will be live on our YouTube channel and on our TV station. So if the only catch there is you're not going to be able to raise your hand because we won't be able to see you. But from an informational perspective, it will be there. So hope to see you on the 23rd. Thanks, Ms. Vogel. All right.
Well,
Thank you,
Dan,
Chairman.
if you have terrible internet, you're not going to be able to watch, so you better get here.
That is
So
another good point.
And they're not watching us
Exactly
now,
right.
hearing us. Believe
We will
me,
send up a
I'm
smoke
watching.
signal from the town park just before the start of the meeting.
Yeah, I certainly hope the entire board will be at that meeting as well.
Right. Oh, they will.
Only if you have comfy chairs this time.
Okay. So, next on our list is, we'd like to give you an opportunity to share his thoughts with us, whether it be Land Commission or something, broadband, you name it, you're on it for everything. Please, share with us your thoughts.
Everything but dams, sorry about that, Marcus, I can't help you out there, at least not yet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Board, for the opportunity to give you an update on what's going on at the county board level. I sent out to the Madam Clerk an update from our December 20th meeting. A lot of resolutions, pretty straightforward, that I won't go into. The ones that I wanted to cover, you talked about the HL10 already, which was a fairly entertaining discussion at the county board meeting, seeing 3 of my fellow RPC members change their mind. So it'll be a challenge, which is one of the reasons we discuss it at the Plan Commission, just to provide the Plan Commission's voice and the town of Sevastopol's voice, especially with the challenges that the town has faced with countryside, conditional use permits, and the enforcement. So I appreciate the Plan Commission's work in that regard. The other RPC ordinance that was changed at the county board level was the repeal of Chapter 7 of the Door County Code regarding wind energy facility ordinance. As you know, the county had its own ordinance, relative to wind energy facilities from back in the early aughts. And there has been, subsequent work done by the state, basically updating their regulations, of which our ordinance has been more out of date relative to keeping up with changes at the state level. And much like other chapters that have been updated by corporate counsel to reflect changes in state and kind of aligning with state regulations, this is another one where we're going to be aligning back to state regulations rather than trying to have to keep up with the changing dynamics of how the state manages it. So basically rescinding it allows us basically just to align with and just utilize the state regulation. Another one that will be coming up sometime this year is a discussion about repealing the ordinances regarding towers. And one of the challenges is with new technologies, whether it's fixed wireless, whether it's 5G, where you're talking about them putting antennas on power lines, telephone poles, etc. It makes it very challenging to try to stay up to date with that. And again, there's existing state statute that addresses those newer technologies and towers. And so we'll likely, down the road, make changes and repeal that related ordinance as well. So that's something to stay tuned for. I want to highlight some of the committee activities as the broadband chair. I was delighted to have Jeannie Vogel at our January 11th meeting talk about the work from the great work that the town has done, in particular with issuing the request for proposal and establishing that as a thorough process. Jeannie got a lot of kudos from a lot of the stakeholders from other municipalities relative to the thoroughness of the work that Sevastopol has done, and basically acknowledging that the town has probably done the most thorough work of any municipalities that they have seen. So congratulations, Jeannie, on your work there. And to note that a few towns are taking a look and have already utilized our RFP in some of their work, including the Village of Egg Harbor. I was told that today when I was there at the hall for a different meeting. So it's already, again, being used, and it just builds on top of the shoulders of the work from the town of Bailey's Harbor, town of Jacksonport, town of Liberty Grove, Washington Island, with all those municipality stakeholders that have been kind of pioneering the work over the last several years, that we were able to rely on and have utilized as part of our county process to share best practices, not reinvent the wheel, leverage the county where we know we can leverage them, and take advantage of that so we can get to where we're at with the public hearing next week. So congratulations to the town on their efforts there. Amy Connolly also talked about in the United Way presentation about what they call on digital equity, or what they call tech equity. That's going to be one of the things we're going to have to work on, once the town makes a decision on how to proceed forward with broadband. We know there's a lot of folks that are challenged relative to still from a funding and monetary ability to have broadband as a required or necessary utility in their homes. And there's several federal programs that can help them get reduce the fees. There's what's called the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP, which basically allows residents that to apply, and if they meet the requirements, they basically get $30 off per month off their broadband monthly subscription. And we know that several of the internet service providers that the town has had discussions with as part of its RFP process also have additional programs. So those are things we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on relative to make sure that broadband access, as we work towards that goal, we also can address the affordability challenge for folks. And I know that's something that I know the town is mindful of. So just something for us to make sure that we can rely and utilize the United Way as a partner in this regard. Also, we know that through the town's efforts putting notices in the mail, relative to filling out the broadband survey, it's still important to do that, through the FiberNet Door County org site. Through the December poll, there has been 472 responses for the town of Sevastopol, so that surpasses by about 10 to 20% what was done by the original town survey. We anticipate as a county to get the latest update from the state in about 2 weeks, so we expect a substantial increase. That 472 does not include the no service survey responses that were in the town. So we know we'll have, over 100 plus just for our town, relative to, providing that information and adding that onto the state survey. So that, again, that survey is important for everyone to fill out. If you haven't done that, please do so, even for folks that are considered served along Bayshore Drive, Glidden Drive, Bark Road, South Cape Point Road. If you don't have service, it's still important to identify yourselves that way, because even with a letter of support, you can actually be claimed as being not served. And the more non-served residents we have, the bigger opportunity is for us to get grant dollars. So this is all survey data that the state has, and so the State Public Service Commission, which basically is going to be the entity that issues grant dollars, we can state these statistics because it's coming out of their database. So it provides incredible amount of credibility relative to, for us pleading our case, because we're basically regurgitating their data that's in their database. So, so I think great work continuing to do that within the town, and I think we'll continue to get great visibility relative to the work that we're doing in that regard. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that the town board may have.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from all of the work that we've done on this RFP and all the other stuff, it is our belief that we have about 900 to 1,000 underserved or unserved.
1,000, slightly over 1,000, wasn't it? Hugh?
Approximately 1,000 under and unserved locations.
Which represents about half of our
which is
voting
roughly,
population.
Slightly less.
Yeah, which is about roughly half. Yeah, roughly half of that population. We're also working on some data with the great assistance of our Madam Clerk and also Linda's expertise, noting about the lottery and the fact that we're trying to also figure out how many residents versus second homeowners we have, because that also gives us good insights as to adoption rates and viability of, especially for serving notice. For example, talking to the broadband coordinator today, one of the ISPs in the northern part of the county has had a hard time reaching residents relative to the fact that they're stringing fiber along their road, and they're going along a stretch of road where it's mainly folks that it's their summer home or vacation home. And so the vacation homeowner is wondering if they're responding to a survey or some marketing spiel, but it's really relative to, we're going down the road. If you want to get your fiber line drop installed, which in some cases may be at a reduced or no cost to you at all, those are important things. And just knowing who are part-time residents for us as part of that process is going to be important. It'll make Amy's life easier, relative to helping a vendor do notifications or helping them do a different way of outreach to make sure they can get a hold of all of our residents, whether they're part-time or whether they're full-time.
Can I go back to that number? Is that households? 1,000 or 1,000, is that households or?
Locations.
Locations.
So,
Locations, so what does that mean?
So
Like addresses.
we, as a way to try to standardize it, Mark, because some of it, we used countywide the E911 address list. So if you have an address list, that was kind of our conservative estimate. If I looked at the town of Sevastopol, roughly 100 to 150 of those don't have a structure on them. That's okay. Future growth, those sorts of things, they can design with that in mind. If someone took the pains of getting an address, they might anticipate building a house, a building, whatever there. So that's based on the number of locations. And then based on that conservative number of locations, remember when charter goes down a road, the government technically considers everyone on that area served, whether there's only one person that signs up for the service or nobody, right? And so one of the things that we wanted to fine tune is based on those rough estimates to get a much more granular sense of who really has a connection or who has no connection at all. And so that's why we looked at those numbers conservatively. And then as part of our RFP process, the 4 respondents came in with their own numbers.
Yeah.
So it was helpful for us to kind of know what we thought was that we're underserved or unserved, so that when they would say, you have only 400 unserved or underserved, we could say, wait a minute, that's crazy.
Yeah, that number you said, actually, if you think about that, it's pretty conservative. I mean, because we have 2,300 residents, right?
Well,
Roughly
21.
Voting.
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 But
You know what I mean? So
We use
And
it
we
If
have,
you take, you know, divide that by 2 if you have couples, you know what I mean, you can't.
Oh, we used it 2165, I think, locations. Is that
and that's
what
where we
you-
look at the tax lottery, because those are actual, dwellings, right? That's a full-time residence, so that's one. And our other source of data, Mark, is we went to the 2020 census. And so that gives us a number of how many households there are in the town, because again, it's not only just the residents, right? There's folks that live in apartment buildings, those sorts of things. So we have to make sure we can capture that as well. So that's
awesome.
so we're
That's awesome.
going.
We got all those numbers.
We're
We got something
triangulating, 2 or 3 different ways, again, not to necessarily believe the numbers, but to give us the ability to ask, questions so that we can make sure we're as close and accurate as possible.
Great job.
But Charter, for the first time, through the RFP process, came back to us with their served, underserved, which if I had $1 for every time we'd asked for that information over the course of the last 15 years, I'd be a millionaire. So it was an interesting perspective and helped validate the numbers. So that's the good news. So, all right. Well, thanks, you.
Yeah, so, and again, just to reiterate what Supervisor Vogel said, we encourage all the residents to attend the public hearing next week at 6 o'clock on the 23rd. And as part of this process, just to reassure the residents that we utilized both the survey feedback they did from the town survey, as well as what they provided as part of the fibernet.org survey that we had sent out. So that information has been very helpful in us to determine a potential route going forward. So thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Good. Thanks again, Hugh. Appreciate that. Okay, going back into our packet here. You do have a copy of the name escapes me, Door County Inspections Report for the month. And I can tell based on the construction going around me that he's a busy guy. Plus there's some holes that they can't even cover. So apparently there's a backlog of work. As we move on to correspondence, well, there's someone on my left I wanted to recognize
Linda's at it again.
who managed to make the Reader's Digest issue. She's a published author who wrote a comment into Reader's Digest with respect to short-term rentals. And I put it in here for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that she is a published writer. And also the fact that she's supported and has, makes good sense with respect to how Airbnb and VRBOs, the impact they have on our residential areas. So it's, I won't bother to read it, but I give her credit for taking the time to share her thoughts, because this is obviously an ongoing concern of everybody in the community.
And Dan, you didn't mention that we're in there at where. You didn't mention that.
No.
Our
We're aware
Squiggly Road.
our old road, which I think, had they taken this picture 20 years ago before they flattened it, if you recall, this road was,
Very hilly.
they decreased the amount of hills in it and they widened it. Used to be really interesting. Another item in your packet in correspondence is we received, sorry.
Could I comment on that?
Sure, do you want to comment on the article?
I don't know
please?
if anybody except me reads the Reader's Digest anymore. In a brief history lesson, Airbnb literally started with 2 fellows in San Francisco. There was a shortage of rooms. They had some air mattresses, put them on the floor of their home, and called it an air bed, and started charging for it. And it's now a $100 billion company, Airbnb. That was a response to an article that appeared in Reader's Digest last summer extolling the virtues of Airbnb. So naturally, I had to respond. My original response to them was 250 words. They cut it down to about 25.
Okay, you insist on it? So here's your response. It says,
you're going to read it.
your Airbnb facts from August didn't mention the negative impacts on residential areas. My low-key, friendly subdivision was never meant to be a destination for short-term rentals. It is totally the opposite of what attracted me in the first place. So now you have it. There's no secrets anymore.
All right, thank you.
Her pen name, LW.
LW.
Yes, LW. All right. In your packet is a notice from Destination Door County that they sent us some cash. This is that whole talk track regarding the pickleball, the
They
loan,
just
and all that
returned
good
it.
stuff, so.
I have a question on that, too.
You have a question?
I know
on
you-
that?
that we're all anxious to get home.
That's okay.
But in Julie's letter, Julie Gilbert from Destination Door County, it said that one example of an appropriate expenditure would be other facilities that are open for public use by residents and visitors. Would the town hall fall under that?
Yeah, but we don't
Like
have a bill.
No, but say our audio system that we want to improve.
Oh.
So that would be
that could-
facilities
I didn't
open
think
for
about that, Linda.
public use, right?
Good point.
Yeah, that could be.
Didn't think so.
I'll take that out of my packet and follow up on that.
Just a
So,
thought.
at any rate, so you see what we receive from them, and in future years, it's gonna go up a little bit from where we were at. I don't know where the echo's coming from. So,
Okay.
all right. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading my own note to myself here, which is I'm looking for any concerns that might be out there with relative to intersections where, due to the growth of vines, tree limbs, or brush, are blocking your ability to see a stop sign or it's a sign that might be a turn or low speed or whatever. So from the board's perspective, anybody that has them, please send them in to Amy so we can get them off to the county. They're gonna go out and clean those up. And if there's anybody listening that has a concern about an intersection near their house, feel free to call our town clerk and give her that location, and we'll have that cleaned up. You also have a copy of the Sturgeon Bay Fire Report, the payment notice, which I believe Amy covered. And in the packet, you also have some correspondence from the DNR to the Mitchkes regarding placement of a structure in the bay opposite their property. And so many pages here tonight. And that is everything in the way of correspondence. So, going down to announcements, you'd be really surprised if I suggested you came to a public hearing on broadband on Monday, January 23rd at 6 p.m. That way we can justify having everybody here to film it, get your input. And our next Board of Supervisors meeting will be February 20th at 7 p.m. So, which leaves us with a motion to adjourn if someone would like to do that.
I'd like to make that motion to adjourn.
You would?
Yes.
Second.
We didn't have to argue over that one at all. Thanks. Motion by Derek, second by Mark to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.